Welcome to this week's Weather Extra. I'm meteorologist Jillian Johnson. We saw a tiny break from the heat early last week, and even a few lucky Central Texans saw some rain. But throughout the end of the week and this weekend, the heat cranked all the way up, giving us the hottest temperatures we've felt so far this year. We get Weather Extra started with News 10's Chantel Ropp, who has tips and tricks to help keep those air conditioners running throughout this brutal summer heat. Chantel.
With AC units working overtime this week in Central Texas, local repair shops like P&E Mechanical are already seeing an uptick in calls.
Everything from, units down to they've got water leaking through the ceiling, all kinds of stuff like that.
Barbieri says that repairing a unit can run thousands of dollars. But there are some more affordable measures you can take before it gets to that point, the most important being a clean filter.
If you check your filter and it's discolored, just take it out. Put a new one in. People do not realize how much strain a dirty filter puts on a blower motor.
He also recommends a clean condenser coil.
If you've got a condenser coil that's got leaves, grass built up around it, dirt, dust on it, it's really hard for that condenser to pull air through it like it's supposed to.
These items and more can be found at local hardware stores like Circle Hardware. Filters run anywhere between $2 to $6. But what owner Larry Dagley says he's most stocked up on this week is fans.
A fan that you can take with you throughout the house. Getting one of those fans is a great idea because it will help move that cool air around in the house.
And soaker hoses. Along with filters, condenser coils, and fans, soaker hoses help keep your home's foundation irrigated.
Get soaker hoses around your house so that you keep that foundation safe, keep it from cracking or shifting.
One thing that we've seen an increase of across Central Texas due to the scorching heat is the number of grass fires and wildfires. The Texas A&M Forest Service has authority over any water source when fighting these fires, and most of the time, the easiest source of water to access is lakes. News 10's Jasmine Lotz joins us with more on how fighting these fires impact lake levels and water restrictions. Jasmine.
The Forest Service aviation crew used nearly 30,000 gallons of water from Lake Waco to contain a 100-acre wildfire in Lorena. The city of Waco and the Forest Service says even though that's just a drop in the bucket, folks should continue to exercise water conservation and fire prevention.
The Texas A&M Forest Service was busy fighting a 115-acre wildfire in Lorena.
The benefit that allowed us to have was saving approximately 30 homes. There were a lot of homes in the path of that fire.
Kylie Moran of the Texas A&M Forest Service says the agency has authority to use any water source while fighting wildfires. In this case, 2 Forest Service planes used 28,000 gallons of water from Lake Waco.
When it is this dry, a little more aggressive on our approach to it, because fires can move very rapidly through the very dry vegetation.
Jessica Emmett Sellers with the city of Waco says 28,000 gallons doesn't even make a dent in the lake.
But when you think about the capacity of the lake being in the 30 billion gallon range, all of a sudden 28,000 doesn't sound like that much. So again, it's one of those things where that's a really small percentage of just regular water usage.
However, the city of Waco predicts it will reach stage 3 drought conditions before the fall. The Forest Service says if using the lake's water to contain wildfires becomes a pattern, it could affect lake levels.
These fires are taking more and more effort to put out. I could see that potentially as being a strain on our water resources, but at the moment, the water consumption has not been an issue.
To avoid this issue, the city of Waco reminds folks to exercise preserving the water we do have. On the other side, the Forest Service wants folks to exercise being cautious to avoid fires starting.
It can take just a very small spark to start fires when it is this dry and this windy.
And you may have seen this video behind me during Jasmine's report, but this video shows you the special plane that dumped water to control the wildfire that broke out in Lorena. The Texas A&M Forest Service has brought in dozens of aircraft to help in the fight against rampant wildfires across the state. Andrew Freeman has a closer look at the Super Scoopers in action.
Just a giant yellow beast. It's made to fight fire. That's all it's made to do. That's all it does.
Alec Kirby has been a Super Scooper pilot for 2 years.
We've been flying every day while we're on shift, and so all of the guys here that fly and gals, We love flying. There's not many people here who look at it just as a job.
His plane is one of 30 brought in by the Texas A&M Forest Service just a couple weeks ago to help fight wildfires across the state.
95,000 football fields worth of land has burned so far. The bulk of that has actually burned in the last 6 to 7 weeks.
Associate Director and Fire Chief Wes Moorhead says taking the fight to the air helps control the fires with excellent precision.
They are well received on the fire line. As an instant commander, as a firefighter, when you see aviation assets like the Super Scoopers come, you know that action is going to be taken on that fire. You know that help has arrived.
The Super Scoopers use water from nearby lakes for rapid delivery. They can carry 1,400 gallons of water, the equivalent of 3 fire engines.
Really, if you have a lake nearby, it's the best plane for it because you can just hit the lake, hit the fire over and over and over.
Alex says the hard work happens on the ground, but the real joy is doing what he can to help.
We don't put the fires out. We just kind of hold it and keep it until those guys can get on the ground, dig lines, push a dozer line, whatever it takes.
And take a look at this before and after shot of a popular camping and fishing site in Winkler Park in Bell County. On the bottom was 5 years ago, and on the top you can see this is just from a few days ago, and all of the water is gone. Now this site is pretty common at creeks, rivers, and popular fishing spots. While lake levels are low, the drought also leaves bodies of water that depend on the lake bone dry. News 10's Madison Herbert reports.
You may not be able to notice much of a difference when looking at the lake, but looking at a creek may help put things into perspective. The Brazos River Authority says the drought affects the levels and in turn affects the quality.
If there happens to be a water quality problem, usually in droughts, it can be accentuated just because everything is more concentrated with, lower levels of water.
Unless there is no water at all. This is Winkler Park off of Lake Belton. A picture from 2018 shows the popular camping site full of experiences and water. It's now empty and dry, forcing wildlife to move.
Since it does happen, relatively slowly, fish and other invertebrates and other aquatic organisms can find refuge where there is water. Granted, they may be a little stressed, but they are pretty good at finding refuge.
The Brazos River Authority says while these images may be shocking, it could be worse.
In streams, we will note, no flow or, a standing pool of water. And to my recollection, it's definitely not devastating looking out there. So there is still water.
Here are the most recent numbers for the reservoir levels at Lake Belton. We reported 2 weeks ago that it was 62% full. That is now down to 60%. This time last year, it was nearly 80% full. Reporting in Bell County, Madison Herbert, KWTX News 10.
Straight ahead on Weather Extra, planes across the country have been struggling during this brutal heat wave. After the break, we hear about how this is impacting one local flight school and learn the science behind it all. Welcome back to Weather Extra. As temperatures continue to soar, planes across the country are struggling to take off. News 10's Nate Smith tells us how the heat takes a toll on even the smallest airports.
Extreme temperatures like the ones we've seen this summer make life more complicated for everyone. And while he's not tasked with transporting 100 passengers at a time from coast to coast, the heat does add a wrinkle in the day of Daniel Mayfield, a flight instructor at Pegasus Flight School in McGregor.
They don't have air conditioning. I probably should have led with that. The aircraft don't have air conditioning, so they bake out in the heat for a while until the next student gets in, and then we finally get in the air. But while you're in the air, it's like being in a hot car that's parked in the parking lot for hours on end.
The same goes for Tanner Brown, a student of Mayfield's whose flight schedule is almost completely dictated by the unrelenting temperatures.
During the afternoon, it's pretty miserable, especially on the ground because it's just so hot. Like when you're in low altitudes and stuff, and then the plane doesn't perform as well. But here in the summer, for sure, I definitely try to avoid it and go either early morning or pretty late at night.
As Brown just alluded to, the sun can have a negative impact on both your flight and the plane itself. The heat causes issues ranging from turbulence while the plane is in the air to restrictions on how much fuel or cargo a plane can hold, and even has an impact on how many passengers are allowed to board a flight. This is due in large part to thin air changing the amount of weight it's safe for your plane to carry.
Last year was actually getting pretty hot as well, to where we were having to cancel some flights. But because it's this hot outside, the air gets very, very thin, and so you don't have as much lift. You have worse performance for the engines, for the wings, for the propellers.
According to FlightAware, this week alone there have been over 20,000 flight delays in the United States. Reporting in McGregor, Nate Smith, KWTX News 10.
In order to take a deeper dive into how the heat impacts aviations and airplanes, we have to actually take a look at the basics of flight. We got our little jet there. It's cool, 75 degrees outside. Boy, I wish that was true. But what happens is, first off, you get the thrust of the airplane moving it forward, which counteracts the air resistance or the drag on the plane. But the thing that gets it in the air is lift. You need enough lift to counteract the weight of the plane, the weight of the passengers, and of course gravity too. All of this is Newton's third law. For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction, but we have to be able to get that plane up into the air. So as the plane thrusts forward and meets the air resistance or the drag, the air splits across the wing, and what that causes is air pressure to be reduced on top of the wing while air pressure is increased below the wing. That helps to create the upward force on the plane, which is the lift. But as the air streams converge again, the downward force on the air is also another way to help to get that plane up into the sky. Now, when the temperatures are extreme, first off, hot air rises, creating heat turbulence. But hot air is also less dense too than colder air, which is a big problem. Gravity doesn't change. The weight of an airplane could change, but the lift decreases whenever we have less dense air. So the hotter it is, the lower the density of that air is. So you need to do something. And first off, what many airlines do, many airplanes do, you reduce the weight of the airplane, carrying less fuel, less cargo, less passengers. But what you could also do is use longer runways for more speed to help get that plane into the atmosphere. Most planes can take off around 117 degrees. Reporting in the studio, Sean Bellafiore, KWTX News 10.
All of these triple digits we've been dealing with throughout the summer are taking a toll on those that work outdoors. Connor Bean spoke with a gutter company in the Brazos Valley about the unique way they're staying cool.
Right now, seeing an excessive heat warning pop up on your phone is about as common as receiving a text.
It's hot.
And for those working outside, there's not much relief.
Working in the heat's just kind of always been a part of life. And you push through it, drink lots of water, stay as cool as you can, and just keep at it.
We're trying to get out here and get an early start. Starting early in the morning helps us to beat some of the heat.
There doesn't seem to be an end in sight for these triple-digit temperatures, but despite the weather, there's still work to be done across the Brazos Valley. Elevation Gutters has gone above and beyond to make sure their crews are comfortable.
I got the guys Cool Breeze hats. They're solar-powered hats. They got a solar panel on the top, a fan in the front that blows the heat out the back of their hat, cooling towels that you can put lukewarm water on or cold water on, shake them, they start activating. We have a tent over at the back of the trailer where they can get some shade. We also have a portable AC unit so they can come and get cooled off.
While the workers cool down, the company says they've noticed productivity has gone up.
It does make a big difference, just being able to stay cool. You know, even growing up in it, if you're used to it, after a long enough day, heat's going to get to anybody.
Providing a safe work environment no matter the conditions.
It's nice knowing that your employer cares about keeping guys safe and cool while we're working.
Connor Bean, News 3.
Coming up after the break, we take a look at this week's Degrees of Science with Chief Meteorologist Brady Taylor.
Well, welcome into this week's Degrees of Science. You know, when you start talking degrees in STEM-related fields and STEM careers, sometimes it can be a little overwhelming and kind of daunting to learn about that. But today we've got someone that makes the field of physics a whole lot of fun. We've got Dr. Tatiana Yurkimova. Dr. Tatiana, I'm sorry I butchered your name, but a lot of people may know you as a famous YouTuber. Tell us about your fun videos you do and just how amazing, how big those videos have got.
Yes, we were thrilled when we got to the point when we had 1 million subscribers to the the Department of Texas A&M Physics and Astronomy YouTube channel. It was surreal, and it is still growing. And you know, we are a very small team, and we try to post once per week, and we are really grateful to all people who joined us and who stayed with us. And it's a very important mission of the Department of Physics and Astronomy to make physics accessible and enjoyable for people. We have so many demonstrations that we are happy to share with everyone.
Is there certain experiments, the hands-on kind of stuff you show that really gets a big reaction from the kids?
During the physics show, when I have the presentation, I like to start with the big cloud, and that's always create this, physics is the best. Liquid nitrogen, I use liquid nitrogen. It's a temperature that is 400 Fahrenheit colder than the temperature of your skin. So if you just pour liquid nitrogen, there will be a cloud, condensation, water vapor will be condensed because of low temperature liquid nitrogen. And then if you take a pot and you put boiling water, pour boiling water in this pot, and then you throw liquid nitrogen, huge difference in temperature, and then there is just, fountain of this steam coming out. It's a huge cloud, and children love it. And then what we try to do, if we don't have enormous group, we allow them to walk in this cloud, and that's another great experiment. You're walking in the cloud.
Do you think your shows are really helping to kind of put a good view on, some people get scared of physics and stuff like that with the math and science, but how fun it can be and what kind of possibilities there are with it?
What we started doing with the social media, for us, it's just another way to share our demonstrations and share our passion for physics. When millions of people watch physics demonstration and enjoy them, so we are making impact that we didn't even hope for, and I think that's just another way to communicate with people. We are posting short videos on YouTube and on other channels, so they're very short. You cannot learn much from them, but you can get interested, or you just can have this fun moment in your weekly schedule, fun with physics for a minute. And people watch these videos around the world, around the country. I think this, and they do these experiments at home, and I think that yes, these videos help to erase this barrier that physics is hard and elite and just a few people. Not everyone will become a physicist, but everyone should enjoy physics and be able to do this experiment. And some of these experiments are so simple. You can do it at home. You just take a wine cork and a toothpick. I don't know if you see it. And you try to balance it on the tip of your finger. You cannot, because it will fall, because center of gravity is here. And then you will do completely counterintuitive thing. You will take a fork and you will insert it. And of course you have to be careful. Don't hurt your fingers when you do it. And then watch. Will it work? Will it work? Will it work? Yeah. You see, it's balanced now. Now this fork bends. It is now towards my finger. You see, I moved the center of gravity towards my finger. So you probably don't see it. You'll see it better on blue background like this. You balance it. I moved the center of gravity under my finger, which means I balanced it. So I like also not only sophisticated demonstrations, but also the simple things that people do at home, and it helps to.
You can find more about what the Texas A&M Physics Department is producing, all these wonderful videos on their YouTube page, by scanning the QR code right there on your screen to watch the full version of that interview and this week's Degrees of Science. Weather Extra will be right back. Welcome back to Weather Extra. Not only is the little rain affecting water usage across central Texas, but also people's livelihoods. Hay farmers say they can expect some years to be hard, but consistently dry conditions are making it hard for them to make a living. News 10's Chantel Ropp has more.
All central Texas farmers have been impacted by the drought in one way or another, but especially hay producers. Hay farmer Ronnie Dowdle from Riesel tells me that his current production sits at just 50% of where it should be.
I always try to plan for the tough years, but these back-to-back years makes it a little harder to continue.
Ronnie Dowdle has been farming on his 300-acre property in Riesel for nearly 45 years.
Cattle back through the early 90s and was not always a profitable adventure, so I got out of the cattle business, went straight full-time hay farm.
But with hay as his main focus now, and a nearly 2-year drought across central Texas, the lack of rain has started to catch up with his livelihood.
Without hay, I have no income. We're kind of dependent on the rain. We do all our preparation, and with rain, we can make the hay, but this year it's been a little tough.
In a typical harvest, Dowdle cuts his crop 4 times. This year, he's only cut it once.
With the spring rains we got through May, I'm at about 50% of where I should be at right now. And there's a lot of ranchers that are less than that.
Lower hay production means cows must feed on other, more expensive crops like corn stalks, and those premiums translate directly to beef consumers.
Price of beef will continue to go up. It has throughout the year, and I don't see it any way it can get any cheaper. It should continue to rise. The price of cattle rises, the price of meat has to rise at the grocery store.
Despite the challenges, however, Dowdle says he's optimistic.
I'm hoping for a good rain in late August and early September, and that'll give me one last cutting for the year. And if I can get a good heavy cutting for this year, I'll end up okay for the year.
And his advice for the community in the meantime?
Do a rain dance. They can't hurt.
Now you heard Dowdle, keep doing those rain dances, because if we don't see that rain, there could be even more dire consequences for farmers in the long run. Reporting in Riesel, Chantal Ropp, KWTX News 10.
Well, that's all we have for you today on this episode of Weather Extra. Tune in again next weekend for another half hour of your top weather and science stories. Have a great week and see you next time.